think of?
Actually, it's 2-2. We're even. Thank you.
2-2. Okay. All right. Okay. So Beneil Dariush and Tony Ferguson. Wasn't what everybody was expecting. However, I think Dariush did what he needed to do to win.
I think it's what everybody... I don't think anybody was expecting it, but everybody had a feeling it could happen.
Yeah.
And no one really wanted it to happen. So, probably a touchy subject for some people. I know there's a lot of people that are big Fergos. But... Dariush, man, hey, hell yeah. That was a hell of a fight for him. He probably could have finished it. He actually should have finished it. He should have went ahead and knocked his ass out in the second when he had the opportunity to, when he was touching him. But I don't know why he kept him on the ground. He should have just let his ass up, and he should have did to his face what Ferguson normally does to other people's faces.
I agree. I think that Dariush kind of realized through that first round, he's like, okay, this guy has nothing for me on the ground. I'm just going to take him down. And not get in that firefight because he could get caught. But even standing, Tony he was in rare form all week at the press conference. He was regular Tony Ferguson, but whenever they said let's fight, he looked super timid, man. I didn't see any part of him that looked like he was a fighter.
He was Ferguson, though. I think that's the problem. Like, that's the thing people have to accept. Like, I get what you're saying, but that is Ferguson now. You know, that is Tony Ferguson. Like, he was in his form because you can be 99 years old and you still talk shit. Like, you can still talk shit and be good at, wooing a crowd and getting a crowd behind you and selling yourself and being a salesman. But when it comes to fighting, like, you get older, and you don't, sometimes you lose focus of what the mission is. Sometimes you worry. I don't want to say Tony Ferguson worried too much about trash talking, because Tony Ferguson deserves to be able to trash talk, in my opinion. So I don't nothing to take away from Ferguson, in that regard.
He doesn't look like a fighter in the cage anymore.
No, he doesn't. He's still a great dude, but you just saw it. I mean, is Dariush good? Yeah. I mean, he's 21-4, but I think he's really good.
Yeah, I think Dariush fought the way he did because he's ready for a title run. He knows now is his time to run for that. Tony's lost his last 3. I mean, obviously, Justin Gaethje, number 2. He lost to Charles Oliveira, who's now the champion. He lost to Dariush, who I think belongs in the top 5. So, who do you think's next for Dariush? Because I think that he's going to start really trying to pick his opponents and try to get to that title fight.
I'm pulling up what UFC has in the rankings right this second instead of Tapology, because Tapology, they just seem to be a little off, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'll never forget after that Amanda Nunes fight. I sent you some picture. I don't remember if it was Amanda Nunes fight, but it showed Lauren Murphy at number 1. I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, all right. So they have Dariush at 9 and Ferguson at 5. So here's my opinion. The people between them are Hooker, Anyos, and McGregor. All right? He goes above McGregor. He goes above Dos Anjos, in my opinion. I mean, why is Ferguson that high up even though, so what's the point in him being that high? And I think he even goes over Hooker. It's just because of who and he's on a pretty damn good streak. He hasn't lost since 2018. So I kind of want to give him. I kind of want him and Michael Chandler to go at it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Him and Michael Chandler, both coming off of a loss. I think Michael Chandler will want to fight before Dariush because Dariush said that he's not looking to fight until probably end of the year or beginning of next year, just because he has a baby on the way.
But see, that works out perfect because here's the thing: is if Chandler wins that fight, if he wins in between, obviously you kind of null the Dariush fight. But you could set up potentially if he loses, then he's coming off. See, it's tricky. because I think that Oliveira. We'll get into it in a second. I think Chandler gets a second shot. I think there's a 2, and I think it's sooner than we think. Just because, I mean, McGregor and Poirier go at it. If Poirier wins it, I mean, you got to assume that, he's the number 1 guy, right?
Has to be. He's ranked number 1, even with Charles Oliveira getting bumped up to champion. Dustin Poirier is still number 1. Like, if he wins that fight, he has to be the number 1 contender. If Conor wins, I don't think he should get a title shot, but it's Conor, and he probably will.
I think if Conor wins, he gets Chandler.
I would love that fight. I think even if Conor loses, he should get Chandler.
Yeah, I do too.
That's a fun fight.
I think that's the next fight for Chandler. I think he holds off and he fights McGregor. Maybe he fights. You know what? If he's smart, he might fight like. I don't know if the UFC would do this. So if Dan Everett White happens to be listening to this, just listen. Hear me out. This is what you're gonna do. All right. Michael Chandler. His next fight, Islam.
Oh, right. Have you heard Islam's booked? He got a fight.
Who'd he get a fight with?
Not even someone in the top 15. Thiago Moises.
Why?
Apparently, no one wanted to fight Islam. He wanted Dos Anjos. So Dos Anjos wouldn't take the fight. I was actually hoping for Gregor Gillespie.
Oh, that'd have been a good one.
Yeah, it would have been. I was also hoping for maybe Dan Hooker as someone that's above him in the rankings, but no, they couldn't get supposedly, allegedly, this is what everybody's saying. I don't know how true it is. But Islam had to take a fight against an unranked opponent because nobody would accept the fight.
It's interesting. See, I would have loved to see him. Him and Chandler would have been good, and I think that the winner of that, got McGregor no matter what. I think they get the next McGregor. And then, because the thing is, you're about to get a lot of collusion at the top. Because, I mean, I'm looking at the top.
We're still forgetting about Justin Gaethje. What does he do? Nobody will fight him either.
Yeah, I mean, you got Hooker in there still. Yeah, Hooker lost to Chandler, but the way it looks is that Chandler's going to be in the top 3 for a good bit. So, I mean, that's not a bad loss. If he comes back and he gets a Paul Felder or Kevin Lee, and he dominates them. Well, guess his name stays in the top, 7, 8.
Yeah, it's funny. That makes it this even colludes it even more because Kevin Lee's talking about going up to welterweight. Like, there's so much going on in these rankings, and lightweight is just so strange right now.
It is. It's the light heavyweight of the days. Sure.
I agree. I guess we need to talk about the Charles Oliveira Michael Chandler fight.
We do. Wow. The greatest comeback I think I've seen from somebody just about getting put to the cradle, and then putting somebody else in the cradle. Man, what a fun fight.
It had everything from Oliveira jumping on Chandler's back really early to Chandler exploding when necessary to escape. He chose the perfect time to do it. Then to almost finishing Oliveira, to Oliveira coming out and finishing him 19 seconds into the second round. It was so fun.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild 5 minutes. It was a wild 3.5 minutes, and only about a minute and a half of that was actual fighting. The rest of that was in between the rounds.
I told you, you and I talked a little bit Friday when I was on my way home from work, and I told you I was going to go home and watch a lot of Charles Oliveira's older fights.
Yeah? Which one did you glance at?
I watched from his first fight, which was against Darren Elkins, 10, 11 years ago, all the way through the Cub-Swanson fight in 2012. So I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I watched 8 of his fights.
Okay.
He had 2 TKO losses in there. Well, 1 knockout loss to Cub Swanson, 1 to Donald Cerrone. a submission to Jim Miller. In those two where he got TKO'd or knocked out, the Cub Swanson was more of a body punch knockout, but he didn't show the kind of resilience he did in that fight against Chandler. Like, against Cerrone, he just covered up and waited for it to be over, just to be completely honest. Against Cub, he just went down. Of course, it was a body shot, so I get it. Cub hits really hard.
Yeah.
But he didn't try to keep fighting.
Huh.
Against Michael Chandler, he did a really good job of... Yeah, he got hit. It hurt. He knew it was hurting, but he didn't stop moving. He didn't try to stop fighting like he did in those, and I was really impressed by that.
I mean, he didn't give up at all. He probably has the wildest story to me from, I'm talking coming in with that Elkins fight and the armbar in the first round to, I mean, that was 11 years ago. 11 years ago, this guy, we were in high school. Oh, the guy comes in and he starts his UFC career. 2 wins, and then he gets on a little losing streak, gets some wins, back on a loss streak. And, I mean, it kind of just goes on a roller coaster. And you get to the point, like, that Paul Felder fight in 2017 when he lost that. A lot of people right there would have probably been like, you know what, I've been doing this for 7 years. Let's just take these little fights, get paid, and fight a lot. Let's become Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. All right? But instead, what he did was he proceeded to just go out and not lose again. And that's been 5 years? Yeah. 4 years?
Yeah, pretty much. By the way, you said we were still in high school. Look at his first 3 fights and look at the date. Like, he went out August the 1st, submitted Darren Elkins in the first round, less than a minute. Then a little bit over a month later, beat Efrain Escudero, and then fought again in December. Like,
he fought 3 times before we graduated high school, and he started our senior year of high school.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild to me.
Oh, man. I'm with you. His story, his path is kind of unmatched, and I think it's perfect for all athletes in the world to look at. You're going to have you're going to have losses. There are very rarely athletes like Khabib Nurmagomedov or anyone else that just stays unbeaten throughout any type of career, or Floyd Mayweather. You're not going to win them all. Trevor Lawrence hasn't lost a regular season game since he was in high school.
No,
He's probably going to lose about 7 or 8 this year, maybe 10.
Probably the very first one.
So I hope he looks at this and realizes, that's not going to be the end of the world. He's not used to losing.
No, but he'll be all right.
So I thought it was a great fight. I was glad I got to watch it. I don't think it could have happened to a nicer person. Charles Oliveira seems like such a nice person.
Yeah, he does. And also on this other side, though, I really I like Chandler. I don't dislike him. I don't dislike what he's doing. Because he had a shot to win the title, and I secretly think that it was a good thing that he didn't win for the sake of the UFC. I mean, the guy comes in and in 2 fights is the champion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think, and also for Michael Chandler, I don't think he will appreciate it as much if he'd have won it now, if he needs to go back to the drawing board and win it in 3 more fights.
Yeah, and that's fine. He's going to get paid because he now is going to get some big names because people have noticed that he can hit. Like, we all know, it's not a hidden that he's a good fighter. Like, it's well known. He's going to get some good top tier fights, and I think Dana's going to feed him some fights. So I think it's up to him to make his destiny now, and he has a legit shot to have that title back in his belt by the end of 2022.
I agree. There's so many fun matchups for me. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor, Dan Hooker would be not Dan Hooker. Paul Felder would be a fun one. That's just a stand-up monster. Islam.